I am Steve Wiseman, the Duke beat writer for the Raleigh News and Observer, joined as always, by the landlord, Sheldon Williams, talking Duke basketball. Sheldon, how are you today out on the West Coast?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm out here, like you said, on the West Coast. For some reason, I keep bringing rain wherever I go. So, Atlanta's raining all the time. I come out here, it's raining out here too. So I'm thinking, maybe I get some good LA sunshine and things like that. But that is not the case.
It never rains in Southern California, I was
Yeah,
told.
whoever wrote that song, they didn't
Yeah,
understand or they didn't live in LA for a full year. So
it does happen. It does happen. So, to remind everybody that the Believe in Duke podcast is sponsored by Bet Online. They've been our sponsor for a long time. We appreciate them. This week we got a couple games to talk about. Duke's got a big game on Saturday coming up here against Clemson. Clemson's leading the ACC. They're undefeated. They're undefeated at home. Huge game coming up for the Blue Devils down at Clemson, which is probably not something we thought at the start of the year, but hey, this is the reality. We also didn't think the Pitt game would be huge, and it was. And Duke played really well in that game. We'll talk about also the win over Boston College. Sheldon, just your initial thoughts first, quickly on how the team bounced back from that embarrassing loss at NC State by 24 to win the two close games against Pitt and BC.
Yeah, when after the game, I found out that it's kind of an interesting note. It was like this over the last 25 seasons, Duke has only lost 6 regular season games by 20 points or more, and the game after, Duke is 6-0 in the game after those type games. Obviously, with Duke getting blown out, especially on TV like that, it's going to be a big bounce back game. But they go into Boston College with more of a, I guess, fire underneath their belt a little bit, kind of, not as much as I wanted it to be, because it's still Boston College still ACC still a good team and everything, and they had the game pretty much under control for most of the game until about, I want to say, what was it, about 8 minutes left to go in the game, something like that, where they can't even tie the game up, and it was kind of back and forth in a dogfight.
Yep.
And the fact that what I saw during that game, the last 8-minute stretch, a lot of things weren't going our way. I mean, we turned the ball over, I think it was 17 times. A lot of times, especially in the last 8 minutes, we were seeing, turnovers, and it kind of went either way for back and forth for a while, for the last couple minutes and everything, where we got our offense rebound, then we got a bounce off our foot, goes out of bounds and goes other way. Yeah. And then they come down, and it was just back and forth. And the way the game was going, it was just a little bit different, a little bit odd, and how most games finish. Yeah. But the fact that we stood into that game and we kind of made sure that we kept fighting, I was seeing that, and that's something that I didn't see against the at NC State.
Right.
And the fact that we were still fighting, we were still competing, our body language looked a lot better during those crucial times of the last 8 minutes of the Boston College game versus kind of shoulders sunk and heads a little bit down, at the NC State game.
For sure. And, Kyle Filipowski made the big play at the end, the BC game. He got it, Ryan Young tried a shot. This is after BC took the lead. Filipowski got the offensive rebound, had to outfight a couple of BC players, drew the foul. 12 seconds to go. Duke's down by a point, steps up, nails both free throws. Ice in his veins, baby. He hit him. And he had a lot of friends and family there because he played high school ball in Boston. So he's from New York City area, but he had played prep school ball up there. Anyway, so it was a big game for him. And then they came down and made the defensive stop at the other end to win the game. Yeah. So, that was huge.
It was Mark, right? It was Mark that hit it, right? The block, or was it Mark?
Mark had the block a little earlier, about 30 seconds to go. It was a huge block. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, he gave up the drive. He got switched over on him, and the guy got past him. But then he made up for it with getting the block. And there's a couple times there when Duke couldn't get the ball in bounds. We'll talk about that, I guess. But I know that's something they're working on. But anyway, in the end, Filipowski made the play, and then on the other end, it was Whitehead that kind of defended the Boston College guard. That was Whitehead did a good job moving his feet and staying in front of him, making him shoot kind of an off balance shot. So that was a good finish for Duke there. Before we go any further, I do want to remind everybody about Bet Online and what they have going on right now with basketball back, NFL playoffs getting started. Bet Online remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, Bet Online features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, even golf. Head to betonline.ag, betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards. Bet Online, where the game starts. People can hear it in my voice a little bit. Probably I'm fighting a little virus here, not COVID, not the flu. I'm trying to get through this. So it did keep me from being at Cameron Indoor Stadium on Wednesday night. Didn't feel like I should be out and around people. I was still fighting this. I'm a little better today, so I'm able to do the podcast. But so I was watching on TV like a lot of people were that game. I knew Jeff Capel had a good team. His best team at Pitt, really, since he's been there, is this year. And he wanted to come in. And of course, he wanted to get the win. He wanted to stick it to him. I mean, obviously, he's a competitor. In the first half, they did it. They were on top of that game. It was looking bad. They were up by 11 at halftime, got it to 12 in the second half. They shot 56% in the first half. Pitt did, getting a lot of shots in the lane, mid-range jumpers falling. It looked really bad, didn't it, Sheldon? And then all of a sudden, something clicked in the defense.
Yeah, before I go into the Pitt game, before you did the ad,
Yeah,
you said Whitehead, and I want to go back and make sure I give Whitehead his props. With what he's been doing. Obviously, if you've been listening to the podcast, you said before in the past one where he went home over Christmas break and his aunt ripped into him and got him going. And then all of a sudden, he had a couple of games where you see a different type of Whitehead. And especially during this game when Roach wasn't playing at Boston College, they inserted Proctor and they even had Young, in the starting lineup. But Whitehead was clearly aggressive from the start of the game. He wound up having 18 points. I want to say 13 of those points were in the first half, where you can see he was moving with confidence. He had his best, overall game where I saw him just kind of jabbing, step back crossover, shooting a shot and feeling comfortable, leaving the follow through up with the shot. You can see his body language. He was bouncy and he just looked more confident. And just the way he was moving and cutting to the basket, it was great to see him taking that next step. I would love to see, the same 13 points in the first half and the second half. But like you said before, he was playing defense, against a really good guard, and he was moving his feet well and, trying to shut that guy down too, which, made some good plays against him as well. But kind of going to your second point with the Pitt, yes, Capel was coming in here to win at Duke. He had a big win earlier against Virginia, who was a top 5, top 10 team and everything. And I see, this is my first time actually watching him play, so I see that this is a game that, he's circling as well as the players.
Sure.
And, like you said, he's a competitor. He wants to come out here and win. He wants to actually win on the biggest stage. And the fact that I'm watching the game, we were fighting. Don't get me wrong, we were fighting. Pitt was making unbelievable tough shots. Like they had contested shots, contested twos, scoop shots they was making. It was getting to the lane and kind of making just like unorthodox, layups and things like that. And I'm like, man, that's good defense, but it's a better offense. It was tough, but we were still in the game. We were still fighting, still kind of clawing back. I think at one point we got down maybe 11 or 12 points or something like that. And it could have went either way at that game, at that point in the game. But yet our guys rallied and kept fighting. And obviously, we didn't shoot the ball well. I think we wound up shooting 22%, I think it was.
On threes, yeah.
22, on threes, yeah.
36 as a team for the whole game.
Yeah. But this game was kind of like a 90s type basketball game where we was like, you know what, we're going to kill them on the boards. I think we wind up having like 20 more rebounds than
23
them.
more, yeah.
Yeah, 23 more rebounds.
51 to 28, yeah.
And it's like, I want to say like 20 of those rebounds were offensive rebounds.
23. Like, I just happened to, I got it, yeah.
Yeah,
23
like
offensive rebounds. Pitt only had 28 rebounds total.
total. We
Yeah.
had 23 offensive rebounds, and
Yeah.
they had 28 total. So even though that the game plan was to, obviously score more points from the field and hopefully get our 3-point shot going, we understood that this was not our night to shoot the ball great. We got to find other ways to win. And we wind up, pounding the basketball, pounding the boards and getting putbacks, especially with, Flip, doing what he's doing. I think he had 15 rebounds, 28 points. He was the catalyst of us kind of like, what, we're gonna bang inside, and we're gonna make things happen. And all of a sudden we start chipping away at that lead that Pitt had, and we wind up fighting. And I think that last 8 minutes of the Boston College game led into this game where we grew up a lot from NC State. And I think that fighting and then that trusting each other happened.
That's a great point, and it's something Shire touched on in the post-game press conference at BC after that win, because again, Duke didn't shoot very well. They had a 14-point lead and let it get away and ended up being behind by a point, and then had to come back and win it. But he said he didn't care about all that. I mean, obviously they want to work on inbounds passes so they don't, have the turnovers in the last minute. But he said, let's take all that aside. He said, we finished a win on the road in a tough setting against a team that had already beaten Virginia Tech and Notre Dame at home. So, I mean, BC's not going to win the ACC or anything, but they're tough on their home court, and they've proven that with some wins. And he said this was a big step forward for our team. Now we'll see how it carries forward. And we saw how it carried. We did see how it carried forward because they were in a tough spot against Pitt, although they were at home. But still, that's a game that could have gotten away from them very easily. And they knuckled down defense and rebounding is what won that game. It wasn't, I mean, obviously the offense only shot 36%, but they completely stifled Pitt's offense in the second half by switching, doing a lot of switching and stuff. Derek Lively played very well defensively. That was something that I know that they don't mind switching him off to a guard. And I think, Pitt looks at like, hey, we want a guard to be on him. You want a guard to be driving on a big, right? Because you can get past him. Not Lively. For all his faults and lack of game on offense, defense, he moves his feet well. He blocks shots well.
Right.
I thought that was a big game for him.
No, definitely. I mean, we knew that he's going to be a good defender. He's a guy that actually moves his feet really well, despite him. I say despite, it's not a bad thing, him being tall, but, even though he's, the tallest guy out there, but, this guy, as much as he gets it on the defensive end, we wish we could get that on the offensive end. But we did see a post move. At least I saw a post move from him last game against Pitt, where he took a look at the basket, he dribbled, faked, and even did like a little kiss off the glass and everything. I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is the first time I see him do a actual post move outside of just a putback shot, a putback dunk, and things like that. But hopefully this is something that kind of sparks him and get him going to, the rest of the season. But kind of going back to what you're saying, yes, Boston College was not, quote unquote, a great team, but they are in the ACC, and every night in the ACC is going to be tough, especially when you're playing on the road. And I think, we did a really good job of growing up, and that kind of carried over to, that was a game that we could really have lost at home against Pitt, because Pitt is a good team.
Yeah.
I mean, they are really good. I mean, like I said before, they beat UVA, who's a top 5, top 10 team at the time.
And so, Carolina.
In Carolina. So, I mean, this team was confident because you saw the tough shots that they were making over our defense.
Physical. They're a physically strong team.
Very physical, and Capel had them very well prepared for this game. And, fortunate for us, we were able to scrap and claw and do things that we need to do to get past all the stuff that we couldn't do well on the offensive end. And we wind up, changing the game around for us, especially in the second half.
I wrote something. Sometimes they're gritty, not pretty. And that's the way it's going to have to be, I think, at sometimes this year, something, and that's okay, man. Grit is okay.
Yeah. That's a good quote. Gritty, not pretty, but
not pretty.
As long as it goes and we win, it doesn't matter how we win, as long as, the results is the same. And I think that's the main thing right now. But, we've been spoiled with a lot of past teams where we see us winning in a real pretty
You
fashion
know,
type thing where, a
fast
lot of
break.
yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
highlight dunks and,
Yeah.
just, threes from all over the court, it, we've been spoiled with that, but hey, it's like I said, I keep reverting back to, the term of 90s basketball. I mean, that's just what it reminds me of. Like, just 90s basketball, we're just going to grind it out, pound it out, and just kind of, like you said, you're ready, not pretty.
Yeah. There you go. Speaking of that, so this game at Clemson coming up is going to be kind of that way. I mean, Clemson's always a team that kind of mucks around with you, right? They usually play pretty good defense. It's down there at Little John on Saturday at 5 o'clock on ACC Network. So it's going to be a big highlight in the game. It's scheduled games that day on a big Saturday. And we didn't know, again, Clemson didn't look like an ACC leading team when the season started, but they've gotten great play from PJ Hall, Hunter Tyson, and they're veterans, sophomores, juniors, in contrast to the Blue Devils, right? But again, this is another game where we'll see how it carries over from what they did, from what Duke did in the second half against Pitt at the end of the BC game. If they can bring that toughness on the road, because Clemson's going to have a pretty good crowd there. I mean, they're winning a lot more this year, so there's more interest in their basketball program. Football's way, it's done. It's been done for a while for them, so we won't have to worry about. I remember a couple of years we were down there, and they'd played like in the national championship game the night before. And this was Tuesday night, and the crowd was late arriving. It was it wasn't a great atmosphere. At the end, it was, but it took a while to get going because they were just they had the football game the night before. So that's not going to be the case this game. It's going to be a big crowd down there. One thing is, we touched on Jeremy Roach being out the last two games. It certainly looks like he's not going to play against Clemson. John Shire said we want to be 100%. He's going to tell us when he's 100%, and then we'll see if he can go before he gets back in play. And so everything points to him not playing against Clemson. So Tyrese Proctor is now running the point a lot more. And I think, before he was trying to play kind of off of Jeremy ran the point some, Tyrese ran some. Jeremy's out of there now. And Tyrese just, I think, knows like, okay, this is what I have to do. And I think the Pitt game was one of his better games. What you think about what he's shown in that area?
The starting sole point guard spot at Boston College. I'm not sure if he was quite ready for it offensively wise, because I think he shot 2 for 9 or 2 for 11. It wasn't a
Yeah.
great shooting night for him.
Yeah.
But coming back into home, obviously you play a lot better at home, and he wound up having 14 points. You can see it was more natural for him, and like you said, it was one of the better games we saw him play. Maybe he just needed to get outside of whether his overthinking it or whatever it is that he needs to have, but because we knew him coming in from Australia that he was going to be a guy that could play like that, and him kind of figuring things out alongside with another dynamic guard like Roach. It might have been a little bit tougher learning curve to play with another dominant ball handler like that. But it could be a blessing in disguise that Roach is not playing right now. Now we might see a bigger step taken from Proctor, especially with us being on the road again, going down to South Carolina with play against Clemson. So I'm looking forward to that. I know a lot of times with younger guys, especially with freshmen, especially people who's supposed to be in high school, there's a case of inconsistency and everything. So I'm hoping that that's not the case, but it was a great sign to see that he had a good game against a really good team in a hard fought game at Duke against Pitt. So hopefully he can kind of carry that over into Clemson. But it was great to see him play the way he did against Clemson, against a very tough physical team. And we will need more of that offensive, power from him, because sometimes our offense is not, stepping up like we wanted to be.
Right.
But we'll hope that that's the case for him coming into Clemson as well as everybody else. I mean, I'm not gonna say no to nobody else having a good offensive game. I hope that's the case for Whitehead, play up everybody. So we'll see what that. But I'm glad I'm seeing what I'm seeing from Proctor, and hopefully he can take that next step up.
Yeah, because sometimes in a game against, like, when we're talking about Pitt had physical players, Tyrese is a little undersized because he's younger, right? So I think he's had a real adjustment to get used to this style of play. College basketball in America is different than the basketball he played. I mean, it's the same game, but you know what I'm saying? It's a different flow than the international game he played in Australia. So I think he's making these adjustments, and it's probably not going to be a straight line. I think he'll probably have a game or two where he stumbles a little bit, but I think he seems like he's finding a higher level, and that's a real good sign for Duke that they're going to need as they go forward here. Because after Clemson, now they get a week. They don't have a midweek game next week, so that's a little break for them. It's the only time it's that little part in the schedule where you don't have a midweek game. But then it's Miami at home, which is another team that's in the top of the ACC, and then Virginia Tech on the Monday after that on the road. Boom, boom. So this is a key stretch for Duke. And I remember at the start of the year, you look at the schedule and you think, okay, they play Wake, they play BC and Wake and Florida State, and NC State and BC and Pitt and Clemson. Okay, well, that sounds like you can gather some wins there, right? Those are teams supposed to be at the bottom of the standings. Nope. Other way around. They're the ones that have been doing some winning. So now it's like, okay, well, there's not going to be any breaks this year,
Yeah,
until
yeah.
maybe Louisville. I don't know. Louisville's not playing very well, but
Yeah, I mean, what you
it's a
thought
tough
was going to be
stretch.
easy, yeah, but what you thought was going to be an easy win, it's not going to be as easy. I mean, like I said, it's already bad enough because everybody would circle their days against Duke anyway. But the fact that you think you might have a night where you can kind of maybe relax a little bit, take a little bit, a little bit of a breath. It's like, no, we're gonna be in a dogfight, especially with our offense. We don't know our consistency with the offense and everything. So it's gonna be a dogfight every game. Hopefully, we don't have anything like that slipping with our young guys, because our young guys are susceptible to maybe taking their foot off the pedal a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because they're not knowing, it's gonna be a grind every night. But the fact that I mean, I said it before, we don't know with like the number one ranking team. Like, it's always going to somebody that's going to change, because the way that the teams are this year, where it's going to be unpredictable. Like, it's always going to be number one versus number 24. It's going to be a great game, that type
Yeah.
thing. So it's the same way in the ACC, where there's going to be a top team versus maybe a so-called bottom team, and yet you see them playing well. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to watch. Hopefully, we become the victors out of these battles and everything, but it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. And I think Duke is obviously, from the last time we talked after these last two games, they're in a much better place now to go forward and get some wins maybe than they were actually, coming off that NC State game. So that's a good sign for the Blue Devils. All right. Well, everybody, appreciate you listening to us this week as I try to tough it through here. So thanks for bearing with my voice and my illness, whatever this is. I'm hoping to get through it and get down to Clemson on Saturday and cover that big game in the ACC. The Believe in Duke podcast is sponsored again by Bet Online, betonline.ag. Appreciate all their support, and everybody appreciate you listening. Sheldon, take care, and big game on Saturday. We'll see how it turns out, huh?
Go ahead and get better, and we'll see you again next week.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening.